Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Friday, June 2nd. We have made it to the end of the week, and it is shaping up to be a pretty good weekend. If you were just on the Facebook Live and heard what Tim had to say, that's a beautiful start to the morning, and we are in for a very good-looking weekend, which is good. We needed one of those. Feels like every week we have a really good week of weather, and then we get to the weekend and it's miserable. So we are due for a good weekend. So taking a look outside. Skies are blue, traffic's moving well out there. So if you're heading over I-20, you shouldn't have any issues right now. We took a look at traffic earlier and everything was moving pretty smoothly. So overall, just a good morning to be out there. Before we get started with our top headlines, real quick, want to show you guys again just how to subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't done so already. If you come here to youtube.com and type in WRDW News 12, that'll take you right to our page. You can click on this right here. The subscribe button's over here on the right, and look at that. You can watch us live. So that we stream here every single day. We are doing top headlines. We do breaking news. We do press conferences, which we are going to talk about in a little bit. Mayor Garnett Johnson is expected to have one coming up later this morning to talk about this cyber attack that we've been hearing so much about over the last week and a half. But yeah, we do really everything up on here. We have guests, so we will have Harlem baseball coach Jimmy Lewis, fresh off a state championship, here a little bit later on this morning as well. Super excited about that, to bring him on. He's always a great guy to talk to, so we'll have that coming up later as well. So yeah, just give that a subscribe. It's a cool thing to stay involved, stay up to date with what's going on in the community. And yeah, it's good for us to be able to do that and stream up live updates to you guys pretty consistently throughout the morning and really throughout the day as well. But okay, let's get into our top headlines now. We start in Augusta, as we always do. A 15-year-old is dead after Augusta's latest shooting. It happened yesterday afternoon at the Get and Go convenience store in Windsor Spring Road. Our Sydney Hood has that story.
People gathered at the Get and Go as well as the convenience store next door in disbelief. Another life taken by gun violence, another young life taken. Everyone out there was all saying the same thing: enough is enough.
Well, I was on my way to a meeting, and then I saw all the police cars and I saw everybody, so I turned around just to see what was actually going on.
Not expecting to see another life lost to gun violence.
Just saddening to know that there's another young person that has been killed.
Nearly 30 people are dead from gun violence so far this year in Augusta and surrounding areas. 10 are younger than 25.
He's dead. I mean, school hasn't even been out a week, and he's dead. I think it pulls the community down because they feel like there's hopeless.
Now the community is turning to each other for a solution.
What can we start? How can we come together as a collective whole, just to be able to help our youth, whether it be not only just our youth, our young people in general. I also ask myself, what can I do as a mother to help the community?
Anything to keep this all too familiar scene from happening again.
We just need to come together, figure out what can we do to help and better our youth as a whole.
Details right now are still limited, but we will keep you updated as the story develops.
Thank you for that update there, Sydney. And real quick, we do have, that was last night's story, obviously, and then we do have the identity of that 15-year-old that was shot. Let me pull up the name real quick. Jordan Gaynor was pronounced dead at the scene about 6 o'clock, just after 6 o'clock yesterday. He was shot at least once, and an autopsy has been scheduled. So we did get that identity this morning. Again, a 15-year-old Jordan Gaynor shot and killed yesterday at a convenience store on Windsor Spring Road. Okay, moving along here. An 18-year-old is facing a charge of attempted murder after investigators say he shot his dad Wednesday night. It happened in North Augusta on Walsh Way. Once officers got to the scene, they found a man lying on the ground, shot in the upper right leg. Officers say the victim was in and out of consciousness and kept repeating that he was going to die. He remains in critical condition. After the shooting, Jaden McCurt left the scene, and when officers caught up with him, they say he smelled strongly of alcohol. He then told officers he had to be in bed to make his graduation practice the next morning. Instead, he is sitting in the Aiken County Jail, charged with possession of a weapon during a violent crime. More than a week later, and several of Augusta's computer systems are finally back online. From the tax commissioner's office to the utilities department, systems went offline after an unauthorized user breached the city's database. Nick Veland is at the utilities department, where things are improving, but they're not back to normal just yet.
Well, here at the Augusta Utilities building behind me, last week personal information like what you owed and paying online wasn't an option. Now steps are being made in the right direction. Now entering the downtown or South Augusta location, payments can be made with specific amounts. But due to still getting things up and running, their way of operating is a little bit different.
You come in and get a ticket and basically go straight up front, but now you have to sit there and wait in line, an extra few minutes, but it wasn't too bad.
The first of the month means paying his water bill in person for Kendrick Paget. But this month was different.
Yeah, it's longer, It's longer than usual.
Bringing new questions to the counter.
When I went and used my card, I was like, is this going, is it any kind of way my card would be hiked by using my bank card, But other than that, she said no, if that didn't have nothing to do with it, and you was fine.
Now, utilities are able to be paid online as well. The tax commissioner's office says all 3 locations and 2 kiosks are now open. Property taxes are still waiting for notice from the city's network to be working again. The judicial system still are without accessing certain files and documents, stalling bond hearings.
To determine if that person is a threat to the community, or he's a threat to witnesses, or if he's a threat to commit additional felonies, or if he's a threat to abscond the jurisdiction of the court. And a lot of that depends on access to his criminal history. And when we don't have criminal histories, then sometimes we have to simply delay a decision on something like that.
These hearings also taking place in person, but as of this morning, they had their first virtual hearing since the cyber attack. And the city does have a special call meeting tomorrow morning to update us all on all this latest information, and we'll have a crew there to give you the latest.
Yeah, and again, that's going to be at 11 o'clock this morning. We will have that streamed here on the News 12 Now desk on our app and on our YouTube channel. So make sure you have those, and that way you'll be able to watch and tune in. Well, former Augusta Commissioner Sammie Sias will not be getting a new trial, and his sentencing date has been set for June 20th. A judge convicted him of destroying records in a federal investigation and then lying about it. The judge said Sias was guilty last July after a 4-day federal trial. Just days after that verdict, he appealed, seeking an acquittal or a new trial. He claimed there wasn't enough evidence and for a conviction, and said he didn't receive effective counsel, but a U.S. District Court judge disagreed. The recent arrest of a repeat offender accused of public indecency is sparking questions about the court process for sexual offenders. Michael Stevens is accused of exposing himself inside a Columbia County Dollar General. And you may remember Corey Rollins, a former teacher's aide, is facing 8 counts of child molestation. And while he was out on bond for those charges, got put in jail again for a new offense. Both have been arrested and booked for other incidents, but at one point made bond to get out of jail. Hallie Turner's been combing through their files to give us a clearer picture of what's going on.
Michael Stevens will remain behind bars without bond. The court's also ruling him a danger to the community. His victims tell me he was a danger to the community 3 charges ago.
But he was going to get what he deserved, and now I don't anymore. So I agree. I want our voices to be heard.
After watching Michael Stevens' pattern of public indecency charges, his victims question.
It's how many times does he have to do it before they look at him and say, yeah, you know what, this man is a predator.
We took a deeper look and found Stevens has been charged and convicted 3 different times for public indecency, starting at a Grovetown Walmart in 2018.
A movement out the corner of my eye, I looked away again because it was just movement, and then something in me was like, wait, what was that? And I looked over, it was Michael Scott Stevens, and he had unzipped his pants and he was pleasuring himself.
5 months later, he struck again, leading her to meet his next victim from a Lulu's car wash in Columbia County.
Back in, I had turned around the opposite direction and I'm facing the front of his car, and I realized that earlier when I noticed how fidgety he was, all of these signs.
She then realized he was touching himself in his car.
I panicked because I realized, like, oh my God, My daughter can see everything.
As a part of his punishment for 3 prior convictions, he was ordered to go to a 12-week sex addiction program in Woodstock, Georgia. But because all of his convictions are misdemeanors, he's not registered as a sex offender, and they feel the justice system has taken too long to act.
He's testing those limits and stretching those boundaries to see when enough is finally going to be enough. And if we don't finally say enough is enough, he's going to really hurt somebody.
Again, he is behind bars without bond, and we're still working to sit down with the Columbia County District Attorney's Office to learn about the process they go through when it comes to keeping people like Michael off the street to protect the public.
And again, you may remember Corey Rollins. He'll be in court later this month for a motions hearing. Jail records show Rollins faces a charge of criminal attempt to commit a felony on top of 8 other grand jury molestation charges. His last bond was denied. An Appling man is behind bars after police say he tried to meet up with a child. Investigators say Evan Popplewell thought he was talking to a 12-year-old online. They say he was sending explicit messages and wanted the child to do explicit acts when they met up. What he didn't know, the person messaging him back wasn't a child. It was a GBI task force agent. Popplewell was arrested when he tried to meet up with that child. He's now facing charges of enticing a child for indecent purposes and obscene internet contact with a child. Georgia State Patrol is looking into a deadly ATV crash in Washington County where the victim there is a 12-year-old boy. It happened around 2:40 yesterday afternoon, according to the Washington County Sheriff's Office. The scene is on Riddleville, Mount Moriah Road, just outside of Riddleville. The driver of the ATV was also another 12-year-old. They were taken to the hospital for minor injuries, and we're still working to figure out details on that incident. Well, even with the mild weather we've had lately, the Salvation Army Center of Hope is seeing a jump for people in need of help. They've seen a 150% increase at their overnight shelter from October to May, and those numbers could grow as the temperatures continue to rise. Taylor Martin caught up with them to find out why.
It's shelter with a plan. The Salvation Army says their ultimate goal is to get families coming through their doors into permanent housing. And after another local shelter shut down less than a month ago, they're seeing more people every night, with more than 2,000 families served just in the month of May. Every night, the Center of Hope is housing 100 people, only 20 shy of their max capacity.
This time of year, whenever it's not super hot outside, it's not super cold, we actually see the numbers go down. But with the Mercy Ministry shelter that just closed, we're now seeing an uptick in people here. 11 more clients a night this month than last month alone.
For Pearline Harris, volunteering here is a full circle moment as she faced her own struggles with homelessness just a few years ago.
I wasn't working, I didn't have any incomes. I got food, toilet tissue, paper towel, whatever I needed, it was given to me.
In May, the shelter fed an average of 218 meals to families in the area, but with rising costs and more people coming into the shelter, they need help to stay afloat for the summer months. They've already doubled their food costs for the year.
We really need the call to action for not just donors, but also volunteers. We really need the help to make sure that we are serving the people of the CSRA. It takes money to be able to help these people.
And for people like Pearline, they know it makes all the difference in the world.
If it hadn't been for that, I don't know whether I would still be standing now.
If you want to learn more about how you can volunteer here at the Center of Hope or donate, we'll have that information on our website, WRDW.com. Reporting in Augusta, Taylor Martin, on your side.
The Salvation Army is always in need of volunteers and donations, along with cash donations as well. You can donate clothes or fans, towels, toiletries, whatever. They will take it. They need the help over there. Students on their way to becoming heroes. Congressman Rick Allen hosting a special signing ceremony yesterday. It's for students in Georgia's 12th district who've been accepted into one of the nation's military academies.
Let me tell you, these young people, when you read all of their accomplishments, I don't know how they do it, but I want to show what young people we're in great hands in the future.
He adds there are 3 other signees who could not be there for the ceremony. He sends congratulations to them and their families as well. From the sides of the road to a new home. 10 puppies are now finding new families. The story of them being dumped on the side of the road in Burke County has gotten a lot of attention on social media. Emma Ellis talked to one person who took one of those puppies home.
I'm here at Burke County Animal Services, where in just 20 minutes, 8 of those puppies have been adopted. After reading an article about these 10 puppies that had been abandoned on the side of the road last week, Walter Hendricks knew that he had to get his hands on one of them to call his own.
Where you going?
While these puppies captured the hearts of many, they filled spaces that had been left empty for a few.
I had a dog that really... It just took 3 years, and I wanted a dog.
But these puppies aren't the only litter of abandoned puppies that Burke County Animal Services has. They also have a litter of 7 very fluffy puppies that were found behind a dumpster after someone dumped them there.
If you have animals that have already had puppies and you need to rehome the puppies because you can't financially or take care of them. Your local animal shelter, we take in animals here every single day from residents of the county.
And for those who are caught dumping puppies, there are legal consequences.
During the times that we gather enough information on who's possibly dumping off puppies, we have been charged with animal cruelty.
But for these puppies that were adopted today and Walter Hendricks, this story has a happy ending.
What do you think?
And that second litter of 7 puppies will be available for adoption this coming Monday in Waynesboro. Emma Ellis, on your side.
There you go. If you weren't able to get that first litter of puppies that went out 20 minutes, they were gone. You have an opportunity to get that second litter this coming Monday, as you heard her say. Burke County Animal Shelter regularly posts pictures of their newest pups on their Facebook if you want to take a look there. Okay, let's move on to some state news here. Parents fed up with Georgia's public schools may soon have another alternative. A new school voucher program is gaining momentum at the state capitol that would offset the cost of private school. Atlanta News First Abby Kasoris explains how Georgia may follow what other states are already doing.
I think I had about 30 kids in the class, and when there's a class that size, it's harder for the teacher to be able to talk one-on-one.
Audrey Leftwich is a 10th grader with dyslexia, a learning disorder that can make it harder for her to read and spell. She receives a voucher under the Promise Scholarship in Georgia. Roughly $6,000 a year pays a third of her private school tuition at North Cobb Christian School.
And I feel much more comfortable with I'm getting the help that I need, so I'm able to succeed.
This summer, lawmakers in both parties are advocating for legislation that would extend parent choice to all Georgia families with students in the bottom 25% of schools. This bill did not pass during the last legislative session, but it has new backing now.
The Democrats need to change their value when it comes to education. I don't have to change my party.
This is not private versus public school. It's not about that, folks. It's about the parents.
If passed, it would cost the state and federal government an additional $100 million a year. Lisa Morgan with the Georgia Educators Association says the bill sends the wrong message.
Rather than deal with the issues that are impacting all of our students, that we would allow a few students to take public funds to a completely unaccountable private school.
She says this move favors students in metro areas. This map from the Georgia Department of Education shows more than 100 counties don't have private schools that would qualify for the vouchers. Another 28 only have 1 in the whole county.
This is offering choice to the private schools, and it is offering choice to the affluent parents that can already afford private school.
Abby Kasoris reporting for us there. 3 people with ties to protest groups over Atlanta's new public safety facility are now behind bars. The GBI says they're charged with money laundering and charity fraud. A crowd gathered outside the jail in their support, speaking up for them. Officials say while these groups can stick together, they have to obey the law.
This country has a strong history of raising money for bonds for people that groups feel have been wrongly incarcerated. To cut off that source of money is basically to say to a political movement, 1, we're going to arrest you, and 2, after we arrest you, there will be no one on the outside able to support you, fund you, help you get out.
No word yet on where the GBI believes that money was going. Those documents haven't yet been released. City leaders expect to vote on funding for the training center next week. Fort Stewart's 3rd Infantry Division held a change of command ceremony yesterday morning. That ceremony was held on Cottrell Field. Major General Christopher Norrie is taking over for outgoing Commander Major General Charles Costanza. Norrie commissioned into the Army back in 1993 and has served as a director of the People First Task Force and the Department of Army at the Pentagon. We've had 9 teenagers killed from gun violence last year and 6 this year in our area. A Gwinnett County gun store owner has decided to close his business because of the increase in youth gun violence. Jasmina Alston spoke with him about making the decision that he says was an easy one.
The last 4 years, it's been kid after kid after kid.
The Nashville school shooting in March that killed 6, including 3 children, was the final straw. That's when John Waldman set a closing date for Georgia ballistics.
Every time you point, there's 3 fingers back at you. And if I don't do anything, I'm a hypocrite.
Waldman says he can't stand the thought of one of his guns possibly taking a child's life or even ending up in the hands of a young person.
I don't want something that I carry to be used against kids. Police. You never know.
A store he opened on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard after the pandemic, using his expertise to run it. Waldman believes in defending your family and used to work in security, but the youth violence has become too much and the what-ifs too great.
I could have sold a Glock that got stolen, then they got it, and then all that. And then the ATF comes to me, who'd you sell it to? Then they got to talk to that person, who'd you sell it to? Oh, I lost. It shouldn't be a game of Where's Waldo.
Gun violence is the leading cause of death for children in the U.S. According to Everytown, an average of 133 Georgia children and teens die by guns every year. In Gwinnett County, the medical examiner says 24 juveniles died from gun violence between January 1st of 2020 and April 25th of this year. Now Waldman is trying to give his remaining guns to prevention organizations so they don't end up on the streets or part of those statistics.
And gun violence is the leading cause of death in the U.S. for children, according to national numbers. 1 month after the grand opening of the first 2 medical cannabis dispensaries in Georgia, the company that owns the stores is now offering a new type of product, a nasal spray. Rebecca Schramm explains how it works.
So far, Trulieve has 2 dispensaries here in Georgia, one in Macon and one here in Marietta, and already they're offering a new type of medical cannabis.
The way that it's dispensed is through your nose.
A nasal spray by the manufacturer Momenta. It's no stronger than the oil already offered here, but there is more in the bottle.
It's a 1,500 milligram bottle, and each spray is 5 milligrams of THC.
Only Georgians with a low THC oil registry card can buy the spray, and at $120 a bottle, it's not cheap. But since the body quickly absorbs the nasal spray, it's become a practical alternative, especially for seizure patients.
Some of our patients have reported feeling the onset of a seizure, and this is when they would grab this product and then use it, and it'll stop or prevent a seizure.
3, 2, 1.
At the store's grand opening last month, parents of cannabis oil patients told us it was worth their years of lobbying lawmakers.
We're just so excited that we can now get safe, lab-tested products for patients in Georgia.
We've heard so many stories, honestly, it's emotional, even for our staff, because you see patients who have been waiting for years, and they literally feel like we're saving their lives now. I mean, it's amazing just to see everyone so happy about this.
Trulieve is planning to open 3 more stores this summer. Let's head across the river now. South Carolina news: protections for working moms who are breastfeeding are now in effect across the U.S. An older state law in South Carolina played a key role in urging Congress to enact them nationwide. State House reporter Mary Green has those details.
Governor Henry McMaster signed the South Carolina Lactation Support Act into law nearly 3 years ago in June 2020. That work done here at the State House helped push along recent federal action.
That did help make a really strong case to Congress that if we can get this done in South Carolina with the kind of bipartisan, unanimous support and in the midst of a global pandemic, Congress should be able to do the same.
The change now in place across the country stems from the Pump for Nursing Mothers Act, PUMP standing for Providing Urgent Maternal Protections. It requires workplaces provide private space that's not a restroom and adequate break time for workers to express breast milk. It's now fully in effect nationwide after President Biden signed it late last year. In a statement encouraging Congress to act, the White House said without these protections, nursing mothers face serious health consequences, including risk of painful illness and infection, diminished milk supply, or inability to continue breastfeeding. The lead sponsor of the South Carolina law that helped get this federal legislation across the finish line says this is a win-win for employers and for employees who might have felt uncomfortable or been unable to pump at work without these protections.
They either abandon breastfeeding their baby or they decide that they're just going to quit their job. It also affects businesses in that they don't have to replace that employee and rehire and retrain.
Government data shows that about 9 million additional workers are now covered under the new federal protections. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
The Federal Pump Act also allows employees to seek legal recourse if their employer violates these new requirements. Meanwhile, in Georgia, the state's highest court ruled that a law requiring people to provide lactation care and services to be licensed by the state violates the state constitution. The Georgia Supreme Court says the 2016 law violates due process rights of certain lactation care providers to practice their profession. Police say this man on your screen painted a toy gun and used it to rob a store. That robbery happened late Tuesday afternoon in York County. Police say the 25-year-old showed the clerk the fake Nintendo Duck Hunt gun in his waistband and demanded cash. Police arrested him a short time later in a parking lot just down the street, and they say he still had the toy gun on him. South Carolina State is responding to a lawsuit filed by the family of a football player who killed 6 people. Deputies say Philip Adams killed 5 people in 2021 before taking his own life. He played football at SC State back in 2006 to 2009. The lawsuit was filed in March by Adams' father. It says Adams, before going pro, had sustained head trauma while playing at SC State, but the university says they deny any wrongdoing and have asked the judge to dismiss that lawsuit. South Carolina lawmakers have passed legislation that will help local governments invest tax dollars into affordable housing. The law will allow the government to leverage the 2% hospitality and accommodations tax applied to tourists at restaurants, bars, and hotels. Governor McMaster signed that bill last month, and lawmakers say this will help governments give back and benefit the people in their cities and towns. Neighbors from Columbia are mourning this week after a teen was killed in a shooting. A makeshift memorial is set up where Cyrus Carmack Belton was shot and killed this past weekend. Richland County deputies say the owner of a gas station chased him from the store Sunday night and shot him. There are previous reports of the owner shooting at a car in 2018, but deputies say those incidents don't meet the requirements under state law to charge him now. And there's a prayer vigil happening tomorrow night for Cyrus. A South Carolina teacher is putting his survival skills to the test for the whole world to see. Check it out.
Survivalist Roka Williams says making it out in the wild is no joke. But he was joking when he signed up for the new reality competition, I Survived Bear Grylls.
My girlfriend sent me an email as a lark saying, hey, here's a survival show, you're a survivalist, LOL, laughy face. And I happened to be sitting in front of my computer, so I filled out the application.
Williams says next thing you know, he was a contestant. He tells me his training started years ago when he hiked the Appalachian Trail after watching well-known adventurer Bear Grylls himself on TV.
That really got me into it because I didn't die. And I thought, okay, I'm good at this, so I'll keep doing it.
That training intensified a few months ago here at the Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve, where Williams practiced setting up a hammock and starting a fire using damp wood.
Being out here, I kind of got the privacy I needed to be able to focus on building the skills that I needed.
And before he knew it, he was in Atlanta with 4 other people putting those skills to the test.
And we get out there, and it is a huge area that is all kinds of obstacles and scenarios and different seasons are set up. It was challenging, to say the least.
Those tests started right away, and although Williams couldn't tell me specifics, he says,
anytime you have to eat or drink something that you normally don't eat or drink, it's a challenge.
And when I asked if he would do it all again,
Yes, absolutely, I would do it again.
He can have it. That's not for me. Talking about eating and drinking random stuff. I've seen Bear Grylls eat and drink enough weird stuff to know that's probably not something I'd be interested in. But good for him for getting out there and doing it. A recording of former President Trump could bring more trouble concerning the classified documents found in his Florida home a year ago. Investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge takes a closer look at this latest development.
Two sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News the audio tape is from a meeting 2 years ago at former President Trump's New Jersey golf club, more than a year before federal investigators searched his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida and seized records marked classified. The existence of the tape was first reported by CNN. Two sources say the recording captures Trump acknowledging there are national security restrictions on the Pentagon memo that detailed potential plans to attack Iran. One source said that Trump stated he should have declassified the record before leaving the White House, apparently contradicting recent claims at a CNN town hall.
I have no classified documents. And by the way, they become automatically declassified when I took them.
In his autobiography, Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, appears to describe the New Jersey meeting, where Trump recalls a 4-page report that contained a plan to attack Iran, deploying massive numbers of troops.
He possessed the classified document, and he had the intent to possess that.
Scott Frederickson is a former federal prosecutor.
This is a huge piece of evidence for the special counsel. It'll be highly influential in the decision of whether or not to indict the former president, and certainly if there were to be a trial, this would be mighty powerful evidence, a tape recording of the president himself.
In an interview on CNN, Trump attorney Jim Trusty did not dispute the facts of the reporting, but accused the FBI and Justice Department of a leak campaign. The special counsel declined to comment, but there are indications that his investigation into Trump's handling of classified information may be in its final stages. Catherine here at CBS News, Washington.
The audio tape is now part of a criminal investigation, and sources tell CBS News it has the focus of recent grand jury testimony in Washington. So we'll have to see what all comes out of that. Let's talk about the debt ceiling a little bit here. That's been a hot topic the last couple of weeks or so. The Senate voted to increase the debt limit till January 2025 and cap federal discretionary spending levels. The move averted a default on the government's financial obligations that some feared could have significantly damaged the U.S. economy. Skylar Henry has the latest.
The bill is passed.
The Senate passed bipartisan legislation Thursday night that will temporarily suspend the debt limit and impose spending caps.
Republicans wanted to put default back on the table in a few months. That ain't happening. Republicans wanted to roll back Medicaid expansion. That ain't happening.
The vote, which comes just days before the nation was about to experience an unprecedented and potentially damaging default, faced some challenges.
Our national debt now stands at about $32 trillion. How did we get here? Whose fault is it? Republicans? Democrats? Well, the answer is yes. Both parties are at fault for different reasons.
Ahead of the vote, lawmakers led marathon debates about the compromise bill that would suspend the federal debt limit through next year.
This budget locks in a smaller U.S. Navy at a time the Chinese Navy is growing dramatically. There's not a penny in this budget to help beat Putin.
I'm going to have to swallow hard on some parts of it. I'm sure other members say the same thing, but the responsible thing to do for America is to pass it.
Party leaders vowed to get the bill to the president's desk before Monday. That's when the Treasury Department says the government will run out of money. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
That nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office spending cuts cuts in the bill would reduce deficits by $1.5 trillion over the next decade. And we just heard from Lindsey Graham there, but House members are making their voices heard on a new debt ceiling bill. Here's how your local reps voted. In South Carolina, Joe Wilson and Jim Clyburn voted yes. In Georgia, Rick Allen also voted yes for the deal. It suspends the nation's debt limit till New Year's Day 2025. The bill also includes decisions on student loan repayments, veteran medical care, and more. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate had their vote just as you heard there late last night, and Lindsey Graham gave his 2 cents on the bill.
I think this is one of the most ill-conceived ideas from national defense I have seen since the 2011 sequestration. The people who negotiated this, I wouldn't let them buy me a car.
Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock also weighing in on the debt ceiling bill, saying he's in support.
I have said from the beginning that we need to center ordinary people, and I think that it's unfortunate that partisan actors engaged in brinksmanship pushed us to this point, in many instances using poor people, vulnerable people as pawns.
Senator Warnock says at the end of the day, the most important thing was not defaulting on the debt. And we mentioned Congressman Rick Allen and his signing ceremony yesterday. While we were there, we also asked him his thoughts on the recent debt ceiling bill.
In divided government, I don't know how else to do things, particularly when you have a deadline and you got to pay your bills.
So as you hear, everybody kind of has their own 2 cents, and people on both sides of the aisle in support, people on both sides of the aisle also frustrated by this whole thing. The U.S. Senate is moving forward with a vote focused on student loans. It would block the president's student loan forgiveness program. The House passed the resolution last month, but President Biden has already said he plans to veto the resolution if it gets to his desk. Later this summer, the U.S. Supreme Court is expected to decide if the program is unconstitutional. Students are on break and more of them are on the roads. Law enforcement calls the time between Memorial Day and Labor Day the deadliest 100 days for teens in fatal accidents. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety teamed up with Consumer Reports to create a list of recommended vehicles based on safety. They say these cars protect drivers during crash tests and are equipped with electronic stability control, which can prevent an accident. They also say new vehicles on the list get a good rating because their controls are easy to use.
Tried to come up with a list that met a pretty high level of safety, reliability, and we tried to pick vehicles that were reasonably affordable.
Being a first-year driver, you never know what's going to happen. Their lack of experience is always an issue.
AAA adds crashes are the leading cause of death for teens between 16 and 19 years old. On average, 89 teens are in an accident in Georgia each year, 25 of which are deadly. 3 people are still missing after a building in Iowa partially collapsed. 5 of them went missing at first, but they found 2 safe. Now officials at the site are working on finding those others. The police chief in Davenport says one of them is a man named Daniel Preen. His apartment was one of the areas that collapsed.
This is something that we've never experienced before as a community. This is something that has impacted our entire community. We had a number of people displaced, but we have families here that are still wanting answers and searching for their loved ones. An outpour from our community to be here and help those families.
Earlier reports show the owner was made aware that the 6-story brick building was unstable. The city is seeking a $300 fine for not maintaining that property. National Cancer Survivors Day is this Sunday, June 4th. More than 18 million people in the U.S. are living with a history of cancer. Exercise is recommended for survivors before, during, and after cancer treatment. Naomi Ruckham introduces us to a group taking it step by step.
These women meet every week to walk and talk.
I'm out and I'm just being normal. I don't have to think about my disease. I don't have to think about my next treatment.
They're all cancer survivors. 9 years ago, Mimi Schneer was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and is currently in treatment for her 5th recurrence. She says walking helps in many ways.
And sometimes we do talk about the disease, and that's okay too, because now we're sharing information.
The walking group is just one of several programs offered by the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center.
And for cancer survivors, it's really important to walk every day.
Susan Stein is a cancer wellness social worker.
Research shows that the direct impact that physical exercise has on your mental and physical health, reducing anxiety and depression, reducing side effects from treatment.
The American Cancer Society recommends survivors avoid inactivity and return to normal activities as soon as possible after diagnosis and treatment. Take part in regular physical activity, start slowly, and build up over time.
When you go through a diagnosis and a treatment and a lot of other things in your life, you don't always have control. So it's just something that we can do for ourselves.
Pamela Goldstein was diagnosed with an aggressive breast cancer in 2017. She didn't exercise during her initial treatment, but recommends it.
One step at a time. It sounds so cliche, but it's the smallest thing. I mean, even to come here and walk for a half an hour, you know, you make a connection.
Getting in their steps and getting support. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
The American Cancer Society recommends survivors also include resistance training and stretching exercises at least 2 days a week. Well, there's a new warning about the great outdoors, about getting too close to wildlife in our national parks as more tourists take big risks, often to get that perfect picture for social media.
In Yellowstone National Park, relief after this near disaster and a warning to summer tourists.
Because the buffalo could have kicked all their butts pretty easily and ate grass like 3 minutes later and not even been worried about it.
The harrowing encounter as a woman reaches out, posing for a photo, and then wildlife experts say it's the latest example of a troubling trend. Tourists getting too close, some looking for that picture-perfect moment.
By taking selfies, we put them in danger. By getting close, we put them in danger.
This week, a Yellowstone Park visitor pleaded guilty to a federal charge of disturbing wildlife and was fined $1,000 for helping a baby bison cross a river, which park staff allege possibly prompted the herd to reject the calf. According to park officials, the abandoned bison baby was eventually euthanized because it was causing a hazardous situation by approaching cars and people. The park now reminding visitors to stay at least 100 yards away from wolves and bears and at least 25 yards away from bison.
That we really got to double down on our understanding of how to coexist with them.
Tonight, a call to educate and to enjoy wildlife from a distance, avoiding close calls like this one.
Yeah, never really got the whole, let's go stand very close to a wild animal and see if we can take a picture with it and not have it eat us. Yeah, that one doesn't make a lot of sense. I'll tell you what, though, that guy that helped the bison across the river, I think he should get in less trouble than the girl that was in the white shorts and the black top there taking the selfie with the big old buffalo, just trying to lay down and enjoy its day. Anywho, I digress. Okay, pretty cool story coming up right here. It's never too late to accomplish your goals, even at 97 years old. That is true for a North Carolina World War II vet who recently received his high school diploma after waiting nearly 80 years to get it. Maria DeBone has that story.
In 1943, Glenn Ray Leonard enlisted in the military. He then found out that he was to be shipped out 2 weeks before his graduation from Thomasville High School.
He tried to have that changed and it was unable, so he promptly got on board the bus and didn't look back.
Glenn went on to fight in World War II for the Navy, but said one of his regrets is that he wasn't able to get his high school diploma. So, 80 years later, Thomasville City Schools finally awarded it to him.
As soon as we found out, the family reached out to us, and we were able to award him his diploma today, and that it's just so special.
He went through these years always discouraged that he never received that, never was able to do that, and it was very special for the city of Thomasville and Thomasville Senior High School to do that for him.
And at the age of 97, Glenn Ray Leonard can now say he is a high school graduate.
It was a very special day for Dad. He really really enjoyed doing this.
Really cool that he was still able to do that, and good on the school for making that happen for him. Yeah, also, Mary Sheely, I'm looking here at your comment talking about that wildlife story. I agree with you. Need to be some heavy fines for those folks that are doing that. Yeah, guys, if you didn't know, we got a little chat feature over here on the YouTube. Check this out, right there. That's pretty cool, huh? Mary, you're actually the first person to use that. That's pretty sweet. I know, not a ton of people watching, but if anybody ever feels the need to comment, feel free, and I'll try to do my best to respond to all of them. Okay, let's move on here. Next week is the 79th anniversary of D-Day, and some veterans who landed on Normandy are heading there one more time. Chelsea Beimfor has that story from Atlanta.
A patriotic parade and send-off for these American heroes.
I was a staff sergeant in G3 5th Corps.
I was an Army nurse, but I was the only woman there. The rest were men.
On Wednesday night, 43 World War II veterans boarded a charter flight from Atlanta to Normandy, France.
Going to Normandy is just like a victory.
Almost 8 decades ago, these same men and women, most of whom were teenagers, landed on the shores of Normandy, all part of the largest Allied invasion in world history.
I am 100 years old. I don't have an acre of pain in my body. And I landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day.
D-Day marked the beginning of the end of World War II and the takedown of Nazi Germany, something Delta is helping these veterans commemorate 79 years later.
It's so emotional, and it's the honor of a lifetime to meet them and to get to know them and their families, and they are so special.
The Best Defense Foundation is hosting a week-long program for these veterans overseas and honoring the thousands who died during that historic D-Day invasion.
We thank all those guys that are buried there by a miracle, and by their dedication. They paved the way for me.
Amazing that they're able to do that, and so close to Memorial Day too. You heard him talk about remembering those who are buried there, and that's just a really awesome thing they're able to do, and we thank them all for their flight. The band you heard in the, or thank them all for their service. Sorry, I read flight here on the screen. The band you heard in the parade, the band you heard there marched to the airport to honor the vets before they left. They were selected to play in the annual D-Day parade overseas as well. Well, a company is now testing out a new taxi without a driver. CBS's Chris Van Cleve looks at the technology to see if it's safe to get in one of these driverless taxis.
Robert Stone and Sheila Zagloski are trying out Waymo's ride-hailing service that just expanded to include their Tempe, Arizona retirement community. Their car arrives without a person in the driver's seat.
We love it. It's going to replace a car for us sooner than later.
In 2018, CBS Mornings cameras were the first allowed to ride in a fully autonomous Waymo. Then, the service was limited to a select few early adopters, and each gas-powered minivan arrived with a human safety driver on board. After more than 1 million driverless miles and no reported injuries, Waymo is seen as the industry leader, having expanded its footprint in Phoenix, adding service in San Francisco, and soon to parts of Los Angeles. Those minivans have been replaced with a fleet of all-electric Jaguars.
The Waymo driver never gets drowsy. It doesn't get distracted.
Adam Lenz is Waymo's head of sustainability.
Would you say the cars perform as well or better than a human driver?
I would say that I really trust this technology, and that when you're in the car, you feel entirely safe.
In March, 68% of drivers told AAA they were afraid of autonomous vehicles, though truly self-driving cars are operating in only a handful of cities across the country. Journalist Tim Stevens covers the auto industry.
Waymo has been given a lot of runway this far and a lot of R&D dollars to develop this, truly incredible technology, but it is still a long way away from being a truly viable, independent, profitable business.
Using the Waymo app, we tried it for ourselves, taking a ride around Phoenix for about the same cost as calling an Uber.
You pretty quickly, sitting back here, forget there's no one actually driving the vehicle. There are a few little things that are different. It can be a little hesitant, and it's taken a couple of turns, maybe not the way a human driver would, but nothing that was unsafe.
What we've seen is that people experiencing the technology really leads to people using it more.
Two people who don't need to be convinced, Sheila and Robert.
It's fun and it's safe, and you don't have to tip.
Riding into a tipless and driverless future. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Phoenix.
I don't know. What do y'all think? I think that's pretty cool. I think I would do it. I know there's the whole risk of self-driving cars and whatnot, but it seems to be the direction we're headed, so I think I would try it out. The San Francisco City Council denied Waymo a permit to add a parking garage after concerns from the community and labor unions that autonomous vehicles could cause jobs. Waymo is owned by Google's parent company, Alphabet, as well. Seniors here in Georgia are trying to make their health a priority. some even dedicated to working out. Our sister station in Savannah caught up with some of those folks.
It's a big day for Gloria Goff, not because of what the calendar says, but because it's gym day.
I enjoy working out because it makes me feel so much better.
And at 98, the Landings resident still feels like getting in the gym twice a week and working with personal trainer Janet McCarthy while catching the attention of nearby weightlifters and cross trainers.
They're like, well, darn, I don't have an excuse if she's here. And yeah, it's just people are very surprised when they find out she's actually 98. Because she's moving and grooving just like everybody else.
She never gives me anything I really can't do, it seems like, you know, so she knows what to do. So they're not really that hard. I really enjoy doing them, I really do.
And she always has. While Miss Gloria worked most of her life, the gym has always been her place to get away, exercising her most enjoyable hobby.
I've done it my whole life. I started working out, I know, in my mid-30s, and I just have kept it up. I've always been active, I've always been busy, active, never did like sitting still and sitting watching TV. Even around the house, I'm always busy.
On National Senior Health and Fitness Day, Miss Gloria is an example of the benefits of staying active regardless of age.
I think it's really important because it helps you mentally and physically, and it just keeps you active and being able to do the things that you want to do.
And it doesn't have to be the gym necessarily. I think the magic word is just movement, whether you're getting outside and walking. You can even do body weight exercises at your home. You could go to a wall and be doing push-ups. You could go to your countertop. You could practice your balance drills.
Or you can be like Miss Gloria and look forward to working up a sweat and throwing around the weights, so you can come back and do it all over again the next time.
I don't want to miss, and if I miss, I try to make it up. If I had been sitting all these years, I don't think I'd be doing the things that I like to do.
The fastest growing website in the world is this ChatGPT, which you've probably all heard of by now, but it's the artificial intelligence site that can create, write, and research anything you ask it to. What if you combine ChatGPT with other artificial intelligence apps? Well, our consumer tech reporter Jamie Tucker shows us how an upcoming Apple feature could make for some interesting conversations.
A ChatGPT, as you know, can create content and answer questions just as if a human is writing it. So I wondered what would happen if you combine that with voice replication software. Could it make ChatGPT not only sound like a human wrote it, but like a human is saying it? Recently, I showed you the voice recording platform from the Acapella group. You record yourself saying random phrases and words. Acapella then saves it in a voice bank. After processing, someone can type out what they want to say and have it read back in their voice. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Its primary function is to help patients who've lost the ability to speak. Here's what it sounds like. Remember, this came from me recording only random words and phrases. Can you turn on the TV for me? Helpful and reassuring for patients who lose their voice. But what if you could use that technology for other reasons? Maybe create a presentation using ChatGPT and have my own voice present it. Welcome to What the Tech, where we demystify the fascinating world of technology. And another possibility, a child logs onto a parent's computer and calls the school to say they're sick. I'm calling to let you know my daughter Delaney is feeling sick and will not be at school today. This isn't likely to happen with the My Own Voice software, and that's not what it's set up to do, but there are other companies releasing software and apps to create deep fake audio recordings. And Apple will have its own audio tool later this year where Siri will read whatever you type in your voice. That's What the Tech. I'm Jamie Tucker.
Cybersecurity experts say there are privacy concerns with the technology, specifically if somebody manages to steal the voice recordings from websites and devices. Okay, let's finish it up here as we always do with a Will Volk story. The USC Aiken eventing team just took home the gold. The team won their first ever eventing intercollegiate national championship. We told you about their preps a couple weeks ago, and Will Volk caught up with the talented riders to find out what this win means to them.
Alexa Duncan and Carson Langenberg are back from their biggest competition ever.
It went pretty amazing. It was unlike anything anyone could imagine.
They both competed at the Intercollegiate Eventing Championship for the first time. USC Aiken's team of 6 riders went up against much bigger schools.
We had teams like Kentucky who had like 40 riders, and it kind of really felt like an underdog moment.
They battled with Auburn for the lead all weekend. A strong performance on the final day gave the Pacers their first eventing championship ever.
I couldn't even imagine like my last year here, standing next to all these girls. It was just awesome.
Langenberg says this helps put the program on the map.
It kind of showed the world that USC Aiken actually does have an eventing team, and we have a ton of talented riders, and we have a ton of opportunities to go and show.
They're excited to see where the team goes from here. For them, it will always be special to be part of a historic win.
This is going to be something we remember forever.
In Aiken, Will Volt on your side.
And big congratulations to them going up against the big schools, SEC schools, and how about USC Aiken coming out on top. They hope this win also helps them raise more money so they can continue growing the team. You can always find out about these stories and much more up on the website, WRDW.com. If you are watching this on our website, be sure to download our WRDW streaming app on your Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, whatever your favorite streaming device may be. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got a couple people over here right now. Look at that. There we are. Look, you got a little chat feature over here finally. Somebody actually used that for the first time today. Pretty cool. So if you want to use that, that is another option there. But yeah, those two things will keep you up to date with everything going on in the community and beyond. We got about 5 minutes left here until the morning mix. If you want to head over to the TV side of things, if you're on the website, just hang right here. The mix will pop up in about 5 minutes on there. But other than that, we will be back a little bit later on this morning. Again, we have that news conference from Mayor Garnett Johnson about the cyber attacks at 11 o'clock. We also have special guest Harlem baseball coach Jimmy Lewis coming on the show today. So we're going to hear from him fresh off a state championship win as well. So we will see you back here then. If I don't see you, have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.